He came to my ears and whispered, "Please be easy on me." He thought I'm Mike Tyson and I will follow his script 40 seconds after I broke the clown's jaw. We are boxers, not content creators.
Like, they're suing me for something I didn't do. It's just the most bullshit thing. And I literally had to pay them
Because Jake Paul is no longer only facing a knockout loss, the conclusion has already exploded. He faces a lawsuit from Netflix that has the potential to destroy his entire boxing business. And no, this isn't possible. Rewind with me, because this was marketed as the biggest legitimacy test of his life just before the lawyer arrived. Contracts, egos, and a business strategy based on noise rather than control appear to have been revealed on the same night.
Gervonta Davis was being very difficult to work with, and Netflix was just waiting for a read.
Yeah, we think he broke his jaw. He's fine. We met with Netflix afterwards. He took a shower. He drove himself to the hospital. A broken jaw is very common in sports, particularly in boxing or MMA, and I think the recovery time.
Netflix's lawsuit against Jake Paul is not an afterthought. It is the result of a billion-dollar platform realizing that their bet on volatility resulted in turmoil. Because this wasn't influencing boxing. You could feel it as soon as the Joshua fight was over. Judges, physicians, CEOs, and people from all over the world were marketed as actual heavyweights in this sector. And that type of machine litigates instead of tweeting when it is ashamed.
We're gonna throw a single straight right hand for 6 rounds.
Consider how quickly this turned around. 1 minute, Jake enters, the branding is fearless and intensified, and the next minute, executives are reportedly questioning why the product they paid for exploded into hospital footage and prevented violence. This is the bit that should worry you. There are rumors that Netflix did not receive what they had anticipated. Additionally, there is someone out there that is more knowledgeable than they claim.
Did you not get knocked out? You dropped and said, wow. I was like, wow, that was nice. I was on the ground, I was like, that was a good shot.
Did he surprise you with his power?
To be honest, no, but I mean, he surprised me.
Jake Paul was not the only opponent Anthony Joshua defeated. Since Joshua was neither a novelty opponent nor a retired name, every previous promise was re-examined under a microscope after he removed the safety rails. He was a heavyweight weapon that worked flawlessly, and you could see the panic beginning to set in as soon as Jake began to circle rather than push. Irreversible, gradual, and subtle.
Looks like Jake Paul is trying to bait him into something, but he's the one that's hit the canvas twice in this round. Incredible.
This is where the experience gap turned into a public execution.
Joshua never even got out of second gear, so this is where the experience gap turned into a public execution. And that's alarming because it indicates that the threat was managed rather than unintentional. Additionally, if a champion chooses patience over spectacle, it indicates that he already knows the outcome and is just choosing when to make it public. And that choice was executed like a guillotine in round 5.
I'm gonna come back and get a world championship belt at some point.
Are you surprised you went 6 rounds with the former 2-time unified heavyweight champion?
Honestly, I'm not surprised. I just got tired, to be honest. Like, it was just so much.
Jake wasn't simply knocked down by 2 knockdowns. Since those weren't fortunate shots, they abandoned the illusion. They were the outcome of accumulation, anxiety, and exhaustion. Furthermore, anyone who acts in a different way is lying to themselves. Because by the 6th round, courage was no longer a factor. It had to do with biology. And even when the brand refuses to speak the truth, the body always does.
But will you take care of me forever and ever?
I started talking crap to AJ at one point.
I was trying to get his head. I think I pissed him off. What were you telling him? I was just saying fuck.
Because you can't caption your way out of bone damage or meme titanium plates away. The broken jaw changed everything. The crowd turned when they saw Jake attempt to turn hospital footage into content, because confidence seems differently when it is earned and when it is borrowed. And all of a sudden, this felt like it was taken from a system that ultimately refused.
But I just pissed him off. Then he broke my brother's jaw. Fuck this guy. His jaw, huh? Yeah, oh, he's fucked his jaw.
Yeah?
You don't care though. Jake's having a fucking blast. We'll see him back again for sure. Yeah.
This is the time bomb that no one wants to touch just yet. It wasn't just a bad night for Netflix. They are said to have lost out on a future because the canceled fight with Gervonta Davis wasn't just a rumor. Infrastructure, marketing sponsors were involved, and projections were predetermined. Additionally, platforms do not refer to the unilateral pulling of that as personal choice. They refer to it as a breach.
You asked me a question. Look, it wasn't the best performance. It wasn't the best. The end goal was to get Jake Paul, pin him down, and hurt him. That has been the request.
Confusion is not the source of $100 million lawsuit. It originates from anger and the word willful that is being used. Anyone who is familiar with contracts should be alarmed by these revelations because being willful implies knowing the repercussions and still acting on them. If that turns out to be true, it not only damages Jake, but also erodes his credibility with all of the serious promoters who are silently observing.
I'm here with the winner, Anthony Joshua. Anthony, congratulations on the win. How would you describe that fight?
Well, first of all, I want to give love to the crowd, everyone that came out. I really do appreciate everyone in this venue.
Be honest when you ask yourself this question. Unless there was a serious problem behind the scenes, why would a business like Netflix end such a lucrative partnership? And no, this cannot be a coincidence because the story abruptly changed from punches to paperwork, and the smile vanished, and the battle is already lost when suits take the place of gloves.
Lawsuit, and it's just allegations. It's not criminal, so there must be some.
This is where the legacy damage.
This is where the legacy damage gets worse, because while losing to Joshua was manageable, losing platform's trust is radioactive, and sponsors don't shout, they disappear, and subsequent talks become harsher, quieter, and colder. Additionally, that stain doesn't go away once you're called untrustworthy, regardless of the volume of your fan following.
He's done really well tonight. I want to give him his props. He got up time and time again. It was difficult in there for him, but he kept on trying to.
The fact that Joshua appeared so composed afterward is another aspect that continues to bother me. Calm winners don't feel intimidated, and those who are intimidated don't file lawsuits. Instead, they move on. Nevertheless, Netflix failed to move on. They intensified, indicating that this isn't an ego issue. It has to do with someone trying to regain control after it slipped before more leaks appeared.
Even Anthony Joshua had some class and, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up to me and said, "Mom, just know it's just boxing.
He says it's the fight game.
It's just the fight game."
I'm obviously.
Don't ignore the rumors that other fighters are challenging because it typically indicates that contracts were overextended when several names appear in the same sentence, and all of the tension was shown in a single snap. Additionally, additional agreements begin to be audited line by line for protection if one breaks. The most terrifying aspect of the story is that it feels unfinished due to the complicated legal disputes over the Dragon discovery. Additionally, when internal discussions, messages, and emails are made public, storytelling fades quickly. Additionally, Jake is not paying attention to the room if he believes that this ends with the headlines because it can get uglier before it gets quiet. Because the fight didn't stop in the 6th round, you should be uncomfortable. The locations were simply altered. Additionally, a heavyweight right hand is no longer the source of the pressure. It originates from legal teeth and corporate memory. They also don't glow. They continue to grind until something breaks. We haven't yet witnessed this final fracture, I believe. After all of this, it becomes clear that the Joshua fight wasn't the issue, because systems don't collapse from a single blow unless they were already under stress. It was the trigger. Before that evening, Jake Paul's boxing career had been under a lot of strain. The theme that permeates everything is the difference between competence and confidence. While competence keeps partners composed, confidence may sell seats and headlines. Every stakeholder began inquiring about the cost of damage management as soon as Joshua revealed the gap, rather than how huge the next event might be. Additionally, there's a huge difference between ruining a business plan and losing a sporting event. Because fighters constantly lose, their individual choices suddenly have institutional ramifications when they become the center of a platform strategy. Netflix didn't enter the box for turmoil or vibrations. For predictability at scale, they went in. Furthermore, it is only profitable to wager on a volatile personality if that volatility remains contained and does not affect contracts, timetables, or advertiser confidence. The fact that Jake wasn't positioned as an underdog experiment exacerbates the dilemma. He was seen as a pillar and a link between contemporary viewers and classic boxing. Furthermore, no one discusses how thrilling a bridge appeared when it was intact after it collapsed. Jake's belief that preparedness alone could control outcomes was dashed by the Joshua fight. However, the lawsuit poses a more serious threat. The notion that since court proceedings don't give a damn about spin or framing, he can influence narratives after the fact. Everything slows down once attorneys get involved. And in combat sports where momentum is valuable, that pause is poisonous because fighters need clarity to train, promoters need certainty to plan, and viewers need belief to stay interested. Another unsettling fact is that Jake was shielded from introspection by money, which is risky because lessons don't completely sink in when repercussions don't hurt right away. This leads to a cycle of repeating the same mistakes on a bigger scale. In terms of athletics, Joshua represented the roof, but in terms of commerce, Netflix represents the ceiling, and they are striking in quick succession, forcing a problem that cannot be resolved with arrogance or subtitles. Additionally, audiences' perceptions of crossover boxing are changing as they become more adept at distinguishing novelty from validity. Additionally, it becomes more difficult for subsequent ventures to blur that border once it solidifies. It's amazing how fast discussions praising Jake's bravery gave way to discussions about his dependability, because dependability is binary, courage is subjective. Either you show up or you don't. Instead of portraying Joshua's loss as a singular error, the litigation narrative reframes it as a part of a bigger pattern. Additionally, businesses react to patterns, not singular instances. The entire story also highlights how improvisation becomes less feasible as you scale up.